guys practice Portuguese and English?
Usually we practice mostly in Portuguese because he speaks to like a bunch of people, and so I guess he doesn't really practice with me in English much. But yeah.
Good.
Oh, but I have been practicing like conversations, but it's mostly to myself, so I don't know if that's helpful.
Yeah, it's helpful. Usually it's what I do. Of course, my English is not good enough, but um, I'm a little bit without time usually. And because of that, I think that for me it's the best option that I have. There is one guy from Jamaica that sometimes I talk to him because the time zone is a little bit different. It's 2 hours behind us here. I think that's you like yours.
Is it maybe it's a 1 hour?
1 hour.
I don't know.
All right.
Maybe I don't know because if Jamaica's like, it depends on what time zone Jamaica is on. I don't know which one it is on.
Yeah. What do you know about Jamaica? Would you like to visit Jamaica? Do you know one curiosity? There are a lot of people here in Brazil that think that Jamaica is in Africa. Yeah.
Well, I can understand because if you don't, maybe you're just not around a lot of Jamaicans, and so you can kind of just assume that it's in Africa. Plus, the flag kind of looks African. Well, I love Jamaica. I am so into Jamaica. I have a lot of Jamaican and Caribbean friends from college. Growing up in Atlanta, you grew up with a lot of like Jamaican, like international people. You just grew up with a lot of international people in Atlanta, and so I love Jamaica. I was actually been trying to go, and I probably will still try to go. I love, actually we just had Jamaican food the other day. It's so funny. We had Jamaican food. I went with my family, and I gave them trivia. You know what trivia means?
No, no.
Trivia means like questions, just questions.
All right.
It's like random questions. Right, right. And so I said, which country? So I'm asking you, which country are can the people of Jamaica trace majority of their lineage back to in Africa?
What country?
Yeah, which country in Africa can the majority of the people trace back to?
I would say Nigeria. Ghana.
Ghana, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I was telling them. And then I was asking a few other questions because, so with Nigeria, the majority of people in Brazil can trace back to, and the majority of people here in the US can trace back to Nigeria as well. But Ghana for Jamaica, Benin for Haiti, and it's interesting because in Brazil, you guys can trace back to Yoruba mostly, but in the U.S., we trace back to predominantly Igbo. Of Nigeria, though.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do you speak Yoruba?
Yeah. Do I speak Yoruba?
Yeah.
I speak Orisha. I speak Orisha as much Yoruba as I can speak.
How's the
I know a little. Huh?
How's the African religion in the U.S.? How does it work?
The one that most people, okay, That's an interesting question. It's similar to Candomblé. It's similar in a way, right? Because if you go to New Orleans, New Orleans, they have a similar. It's voodoo, really, but so it's not. It's similar but different. So they did the same that Brazil did, where they took Catholicism and they mixed it with the Orishas, the African gods, and gods and goddesses, right? So, so in New Orleans, they still have some voodoo, but voodoo is comes from Voodoo, and it comes from like Haiti, and then it goes to Benin, right? And so the ones who practice similar to Ifa, it is very. It's a few places that have the cultural heritage still, and so they would just practice Ifa, but the people from here in the U.S. go to Brazil, or they go to Cuba, or they go to Haiti to learn the old traditions. So it's
When it,
I
when
would say
you
that
say
it has
when you say you're talking about the black people or overall,
black black people.
okay,
Yeah. And so it's different from you guys, because it's different from not just you guys, but it's different from the Caribbean and Brazil, where you have white descendants practicing African religion, right? You have the Ubanda and all of that, and even in Candomblé, they have a lot of white looking people practicing African religion. You don't necessarily have that here.
all right, yeah, because here
Yeah.
here in Brazil we don't have only descendants. See some interesting thing, in their religion, and because of that they decided to make part of that. You know, there are a lot of white people here like that.
I noticed. I was very shocked to find that out. It was very interesting to me. I actually got in a conversation when I was in Brazil with a white woman who was cool. She was cool, but I said, you guys' culture is very African, and she said, "Oh no, I think it's more. This is just what Brazil culture is. It's just Brazil." I said, "No, it's African. Like I don't think that. I think Brazil, because of the rise of establishing a culture that's called Brazilian culture, they took away the Africanness, but left. They took away the African skin and left the spirit, right? And so they think that it's Brazilian, but it's African. It's like it's not Brazilian, it's African. But it's very interesting. But I, at the same time, I loved it because, like, I went to the beach during New Year's, and I thought it was beautiful that white and black people could, play the drums and have the cultural music and have the cultural dances together. You don't find that here unless you go to like New Orleans. New Orleans is the only place that you can find white people and black people doing the second line and playing jazz and all of that. But in most places, you don't find it. You do not find it, because white culture in the US is its own culture, and then black culture has always been this like subversive culture until recently, and everyone thinks that hip hop is American culture, but hip hop is black culture. But so it's
Yeah,
interesting. I think Brazil. That's what I love Brazil though.
that is very weird for me, that there are a lot of places, there are a lot of sectors that are segregated yet, like I see that there are a lot of church that is just, you can see only black people, there are churches only of white people and stuff like that. There are a lot of places like that yet in the United States. That for me, it's weird, you know. I can't understand that.
Is it weird from your perspective as being from Bahia, which is a predominantly Black region, or is it weird for you as a Brazilian?
It's like the same thing, you know. The segregation properly finished, but it exists yet in the people's mind, you know. That is the kind of thing that I've seen that it's very difficult for them to get rid of that.
You have to practice because we spoke in all Portuguese last time, so this is your chance. But you're doing much better than I do. I definitely understand what you're saying. The issue in the U.S. is very much I think that's a great analogy. There is this mental block called racism, right? And classism and sexism and all the different isms in the U.S. And it's problematic. It really is problematic. But you know, as much as racism is holding division between people in the U.S., I believe more so that the Black people in the U.S. their consciousness is still colonized. Their consciousness is still enslaved. And so I was just talking to my friend about this. Like, you know, in the U.S., Black people are trying to live up to white standards that most white people don't even live up to. And so so instead of choosing happiness, you know, they don't necessarily choose what makes them happy. They choose whatever is the best way to survive. And so in the US, people are constantly in survival mode in a way that even in countries that are considered third world and poor aren't. Because if you talk about Jamaica, you know, Jamaica is what people consider a poor country, which is not, you know, what is poor, right? But the people are happy overall. Overall, the people are happier. You know, even in Brazil, I found that the people in Brazil were so happy. The people in Brazil were so caring and lively. And even if they had to work, they still had this joy because yeah, they have to work, but they still gonna go to the beach. You know what I'm saying? Like they still might go to the beach and they still might go and spend time with family, or they still might do this. And here it is such in large part, people aren't coming home and still happy with their families. You know, people are coming home and they, you know, dog tired, or they're unhappy, or they're playing video games.
Yeah,
Anchor baby,
yeah, he got a baby here. Now he wanna live here in Brazil. You know, since the first day he decided to live here in Brazil. You know, because the mentality of the people in London, in UK is very different. You know. They found that here that you just
is he white or black?
Black. He's black.
Brazilians are surprised when Black people from other parts of the world come to Brazil and want to stay. Because when I was there, people were just really surprised. Like, why do you come here? Why wouldn't I? This way, you know, it's beautiful. The people are beautiful. You know, it's like the people are so nice and loving, and you just have fun with life. And one of my really good friends, Thais, she owns a business, Connecting Territories. And so she's maybe about your age. She is about 30, 38, 39, 38, 39 now, you know. So when I met her, she was like 36 or so. And she just had such a lovely life. Like, I just was like, this is a beautiful life. Like, she had fun. She liked to go out with her friends. She owned her own business. she didn't have any kids, you know, she's young and vibrant, and now she's like making really big moves in Brazil. She does Afro and indigenous tourism. And so she works with the Quilombos, and she works in Brazil and Bahia, and you know, and she's the person to know. Like she was my tour guide for a tour, an Afro-Brazilian tour in Rio, and we just hit it off like that. And you know, I ended up like staying with her for a while, and just I had an amazing time just being with her. And I remember sitting with her one day, and she said, I really love my life. And I said, I love your life too. Like, you know, and you don't hear people say that. Like, I mean, I was like, yes, I love your life. Like, it was so, I get it, you know, and here, you do not hear people say that at 36. You don't hear people say that at 30. It's sad how often people they don't love their lives because they're really not living, you know, in the Western world, in these societies. And the same thing in the UK. And that's why Black people from around the world are going to Brazil. That's why Black people from around the world are going to Africa, you know, and we are living better because we're living in these countries struggling. We're struggling over here, you know, we're struggling. We could be in Brazil making what is considered less money, but happy, you know, still being able to take care of our families and do all of this. And so it's a different perspective, you know. And while I think the hardest part is seeing my Brazilian brothers and sisters like wanting to come to the US. And like my Brazilian mama, you know, she's like almost 60, and she was like a chemical engineer in Brazil, and she came here and she's been a nanny. You know what I'm saying? You know, and it's like she has to nanny. Like, yeah, she makes a lot of money nannying because she nannies up north. There are places in the US that Black people or other are not accepted, people of color. You know, there are still places that I grew up in a place like that as a child. I grew up in a place in Iowa, which is in the Midwest. And I was born in Illinois and raised in Iowa. And like I said, my brother's biracial. And when we would go to certain parts, like further west, people would literally stare at us when we walked into like restaurants the entire time. Like, because my brother is biracial. He has a Black mother and a Black sister, you know, and people were just like, they would stop and they'd just be like, you know, and the whole time. And it's like, you know what? So I would say that there's more issue that white people need to accept than Black people, because I believe that we actually are more accepting of other people coming into our communities. You know, if you came here, you would see it all the time. There's always white people that we call them down. Like we say, oh yeah, they down. You know, they one of us, and we just accept anyone into our culture. We accept white people, we accept Asians, we accept Indians, we accept all people into us. And I truly believe that is because everyone comes from Africa, you know, one way or another, you know. So we do accept people no matter what. Now, will one day white people who are racist not feel that way? I don't think so. I don't think so, because white people are in the world, you know, not just the US, but white people in the world, statistically speaking, their population is decreasing, you know, and because a lot of them are mixing with other races in order to keep their, you know, themselves continued. But that's also a problem because the white ethnic group is being wiped out because they're at a deficit, you know what I'm saying? Like, they have more people dying in their ethnicity than people who are being born. And so I believe that is what's going to keep fueling racism at the fear of extinction, because everyone wants to live. So if you're fearing no longer being here, which is why they're making strict laws about abortion and all that stuff, because they're fearing extinction. They really are, you know, and so I think that that makes them scared, and it makes them want to fight back and be racist.
And you think that the mentality is dying with them as well?
Oh, that's
or,
a good
or the mentality
question.
is being pet? Okay,
I hope so.
me too.
I hope it's dying.
Me too.
Yeah, I definitely do. I hope so. You know, and I say that all the time. You know, and I had a professor, one of my favorite professors. He's a white man, old white man. He said, "Some people just gotta die." You know, he said, "Some people just gotta die."
Awesome.